my world with all of these incredible intuitive gifts, like off the charts, full blown, cranked up, just her whole life. They've been there, huge. And then we came together and got to work together on blossoming those and learning to use them and how to be in relationship with them so that they work for her in her daily life. Because, you know, you still have to come in and do your human things, even with all these amazing gifts. So will you tell everybody, Ryan, a little bit about what it was like, what your gifts are like, how they showed up for you in the beginning, and what it was like maybe even growing up with those? Because a lot of people ask me about, I think I have a sensitive kid, and you know, what's the experience like?
Yeah, so I've been having these experiences since I was little. I was probably 6 or 7. Yeah, I was probably 7 years old because my brother was already born. So yeah, 7. And I remember having very vivid dreams, but of my grandmother who passed away when I was 1 year old. So it was moments of having her in my dream and then waking up and walking by my bedroom mirror and her standing behind me, and also hearing her say everything was going to be okay because we were in transition of moving to a new state. So I was, you know, younger, but starting to understand and realize, you know, like my feelings and like not wanting to leave my friends, but she was giving me that confirmation that everything was going to be fine. And I went downstairs and I told my mom, and I was like, I just saw Grandmama in my bedroom. And she was like, oh, tell me more. This is one thing I was so grateful for. Both my parents were so open about hearing my stories and accepting that I was having these, you know, visions, or, you know, having these visits from my angels, you know, from, you know, my guides. And it would just carry on from there. Anytime I had a dream or an experience, even when I was awake, I accepted it, acknowledged it, and moved forward with it. I would talk to my parents about it. But as I got older, I started to realize that it wasn't really accepted everywhere. I grew up Catholic, so talking about this like in school was like frowned upon and not really, you know, the first thing to speak about. You know, that's not what we do. So I really had moments of biting my tongue, keeping my mouth shut, but I would go home and I would write about it, or again, I would just speak to my parents. As I got older, it really became more clear after my dad passed away, and all of the little signs of, you know, numbers, and he plays a game with me with pennies. So pennies showing up in my day-to-day life. Also when I'm sleeping. So when I'm sleeping, that's when I guess my door was wide open for anyone to tap in. And I would have me tapping on the shoulder, be like, hey, I have a message for someone. Can you wake up? Can you? And I'd be like, I would wake up and be like, come on, guys, like standing at the end of my bed, like, just go away. I'll talk to you tomorrow. So I, you know, learned some ways to kind of turn off at night. But sometimes it would just be difficult, like during the days and like not knowing how to do things. So meeting you, you really helped me, you know, kind of, I had all these tools, like you said, like I have all these tools, but you taught me how to like use them and control them and, you know, turn them on and off. And, you know, just even more than that, like you know, just verbiage of how to speak to people, you know, that don't agree with, you know, angels or spirits, but how to communicate it on a more human-like level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
that's
how you went, last year was your first year going through Master Your Magic, which is the intuitive development and energy work program that I run. What was it like for you going through that, having all of these gifts, but not the training yet on them?
It was absolutely great, because the way that you planned out Master Your Magic was really, you know, from the beginning. It's like kind of not wiping away everything that you know or believe in, but, you know, sitting there and starting from the ground up. And I've done, you know, meditation before, but, you know, really trying to find like your grounding space and how to work with that and centering yourself and meeting your higher self. Meeting your higher self I've never done before. And that was something that blew me away. And it really, I'm getting chills just thinking about the first time I met her. And I, it was unreal how I knew how to get to these places, but you made it like more direct. Like it was so much easier, you know, to be there instead of me trying to like find my way. It's like I was in a maze before where you gave me like the straight line of like how to get there. And it was awesome. Yeah.
That's so excellent to hear. I always want people to understand, and it's hard to explain that the program is built for you if you're a total beginner, if you don't have any of the skills that Ryan has, if you're like, I'm not sensitive, I don't talk to people, I don't think I have angels, I don't know any of this stuff. And it's also built for you if you have all of these gifts and all of this wisdom, and it really is designed to come in to wherever you're at and lay this like foundation under the building, even if you've got a building already, and then continue to grow from there. So I love hearing that that's how you experienced it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It just makes me like giddy because yeah, it's like you said, you helped me like build the foundation. It's like I came in with my toolboxes and I'm like, what do I do with them? And you guided me the entire way. So yeah, like you said, beginner or experienced or in between, doesn't matter what level you're on, the way that you know, plan Master Your Magic out is like on point. Like, yeah.
And then tell me, as you were going through, and people can take it again year after year after year after you enroll the first time, you get it for free forever. So I know you're going to go through it multiple times. But in that first year, did you experience any figuring out new gifts that you didn't know you had, or new ways to use any of your gifts as we were going through like the process?
Yes. So one, yeah, and I'm absolutely coming back this year because there's a few things that I, you know, was unsure of, and kind of need like a refresher on, even though, you know, going back and like watching the videos, just doing it with you live is, you know, it's right then and there where it really soaks in for me. But there was, one with, like muscle. So it's like figuring out, you know, like your yes and your no's, if you should or you shouldn't, and, you know, balancing it out like through your body and where you feel certain things, asking yourself, you know, questions of like, you know, yes and no questions, and, you know, figuring, you know, weighing it out. I didn't know I could do that with my body. I didn't know I was able to, you know, lean forward or lean back to help decipher, you know, if I should go or I should stay, you know, like things of that nature. And it's great because I use that tool in my day-to-day life. It's like if I'm stuck at a crossroad, I take a minute and I, you know, with myself and get grounded, and I just ask myself, I'm like, okay, is it A or B?
I love that as we start to learn all of this, we learn how to incorporate it into really like our daily life. You're in the middle of like, you know, if I'm driving somewhere and there's an option A and option B for how I can get there, I follow it to see which one is going to be. And I can ask that question with myself, like, in the moment, because it's such an easy thing to follow. So I love that you're doing that too.
And it's like also you said before, like your gut instinct, like really following that intuition, and really knowing like the difference, you know, it's there, it's real, and following that feeling has never steered me wrong. Has never steered me wrong. You know, I could have, you know, waken up late, you know, on one day and, you know, been on a train that, you know, got into a crash or whatever, you know what I mean? It's just like little things like that. You just never know. But following my gut.
Have a hard time deciphering which of the little voices is like fear or resistance or apprehension and which one is your gut instinct. So as you've been through all of this, have you found it way more clear to decipher where things are coming from, and you know beyond shadow of a doubt now that what is intuition when it's telling you?
When it's telling, yes, absolutely. And really finding that balance between it all. It's also helped with knowing what's my energy and what someone else's, because I've, being someone who loves to be there for people and help and assist in any way that I can, even just my favorite phrase that you've taught me is to hold space for someone. Like I love it. That's one of my favorite things to do, because it's just a time for you to just word vomit what you need to, no judgment, no nothing. And it's just swept away and there it is. But I've definitely learned, whose energy is who in those situations.
Right. And those of us who are sensitive tend to take a lot of that on, and it can get really complicated.
Really complicated. I remember, working in the office before the pandemic and coming home at the end of the workday, like 9 to 5, and being drained. I wouldn't be able to speak to my husband. I would just sit there in silence, and I'm like, I need a minute. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I just need a minute. And he was like, okay, no problem. But some days I would feel heavy. I would feel like sick to my stomach or just exhausted. And I was like, I don't know why I'm so tired. Like, I had a great day today, but I'm like, and that's what it was. I was just holding on to so many, other people's energy and absorbed it all. So that's something else you taught too. This is something else in Master Your Magic. You taught us how to remove that, like going in and figuring out what's yours and what isn't, and clearing all that space, which is, oh my God, it's
crucial. I think everybody needs this work. I don't understand how we're all functioning without it.
Especially now. With everything going on. Yeah.
So you were going to recommend Master Your Magic to anybody. Who would you recommend it to?
Oh my God, everyone. So anyone who feels that it's really difficult for them to make a decision, like I said before, any decision that you need to make, making a left or a right hand turn, and you're stuck in the crossroads and you just feel stuck. Anyone who feels stuck right now, I really feel like Master Your Magic is your way, because Cara, you help find everyone in their space, like bring them back to their home base, like to their home, and then help them build their foundation and expand it. So anyone who feels that, they're overwhelmed, or they feel a clutter, like in their emotions, and they're having their ups and downs of not knowing what to do, not knowing how to feel, you really, tap in to every element, that we have, and really figuring out, what to work with and what to get rid of, and how to expand, the feelings and emotions that we do have and that we want to improve on. And then also, communication, anyone who has trouble communicating, or having a really tough time, finding, self-love for themselves. Like, that's a big one too. You really helped me with that also. So Master Your Magic did everything for me, like every single thing that I just mentioned. So
I'm so happy. I'm really glad you brought up the feeling stuck and unsure about making big decisions and life roads. And I had this epiphany just now as you said that, and I'm like, I don't remember that feeling. Like, I know it because I've experienced it, but it's been so long.
yeah.
I'm a little out of touch actually with that feeling, because I've been doing this this way now is so normal to me for so long that I forget, I mean, I know it's a thing because all my clients come and say, like, I'm stuck. And I'm at a crossroads. I'm like, yeah, of course, that makes total sense. But I hadn't, until this conversation just now, realized that I don't, My team captain tells me sometimes, like, she's like, you're not always the best person to talk about this stuff because you've been doing it so long, you forget it's not normal. Like, this is really good. Really starting to understand what she means.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because, you know, even though I went through Master Your Magic last year, you know, with this whole, you know, shift in the world, I had, you know, a few months later, I felt another moment of being stuck. But having these tools and, you know, that you have helped me, you know, utilize, helped me fix myself, helped me get unstuck. Like, you know, I went back into my brain. I'm like, no, like, I know how to do this. Like, I know how to get out of this. And I mean, and I'm coming back for more because I'm ready to really improve some of this, you know, the skills that I have. So
I'm so excited. It's going to be so much fun to see where it goes now. And every time we go in and we do this much practice and this much practical, it's like, I don't care how good you are at music. I have a friend who's a professional saxophone player, and he practices 5 hours a day.
Oh my gosh.
Every single time I am on the phone with his wife, there is saxophone playing in the background. Every time. Without it, and has been that way for years. And so there's only ever more and better and deeper and expanding of our gifts and abilities. And it's really fun for me to see where you take it now, where it grows, and the richness that it comes with.
Oh yeah.
Okay. One more question for you, and this one is totally separate from Master Your Magic. This one is specific for all the parents out there who have kids who might be sensitive.
Yeah.
So let me say, you might have a sensitive kid if, certainly if they do things like Ryan and I were saying, like, if they're like, hey, I had a conversation with grandma the other night, and you're like, you've never met grandma.
Right.
You might have kids. It's like, you might be a redneck if. But also, you have kids who have chronic, like headaches or stomach aches or behavioral problems when they're in a crowd or around certain people. My mom, it was one of the ways that she really started to notice something was up. She's like, Cara's all good. And then we take her to her grandmother's house, and she immediately has a stomach ache. And we know that your grandmother can be kind of negative, and it's a little challenging sometimes to be around her. And like, so I became this, I was like a, you know, barometer of people's energy all the time, except I didn't know how to voice it. I didn't know how to get it out of my system or deal with it. So it showed up as physical illness in my system. I would go home sick from school all the time. And I remember the judgment of like the nurses and the office ladies being like, something's wrong with that little girl. Something is really wrong with that little, but I'd get home and then I'd be fine. And I'm like, in hindsight, no, there's something wrong with all of you, actually. You guys are toxic.
Yeah. That's toxic. Yep.
The world can be really toxic. People who are this sensitive. Everything becomes almost like a, like toxins in our system, except it's emotions and energy that we're trying to process. So as someone who is a really sensitive kid, how would you want to have been parented, or what worked really well, or what would you recommend to parents? I've been getting this question lately, and I think it's a really beautiful question.
So my biggest advice is, if your child ever does come to you with a story, we'll do this one, for example, with a dream saying, oh, I spoke to grandma or grandpa, or they see a picture of someone, be like, I know that person. Acknowledge it. Always acknowledge it. Be like, oh, how do you know this person? Oh, you saw grandma? What did she say? What did you do? Like, treat it as like you're telling a story. Like, you know, kids have imaginary friends too. Acknowledge the imaginary friend. That is someone who, to me, imaginary friends when you're a child is one of your spirit guides. So that's someone watching over you. That's one of your angels, like, protecting you. So really acknowledge it. Have fun with it. Be like, oh, you know, did you, you know, see your friend again today? What did you do? Did you play a game? That's like one of my biggest things. Have fun with that. When it comes to situations, like you said, going out into crowds, I was also that little kid where You would bring me to a party and I would stand back and watch everyone. And I still do this to this day. I'll stand back and I will observe everyone and kind of take in the energy without taking it in. Kind of see like where my boundaries are and who I feel more comfortable speaking to. And I just do like laps around the room and then kind of jump in. So it's those little things. It's, just agreeing with them, not pushing them, and just understanding them and acknowledging that it's fun to have an imaginary friend and it's okay to have those dreams. So.
Yes. And I want to piggyback on that and say, like, teach your kids that they're in control and they're in charge, right?
Yeah.
From the, like, oh, you have a new imaginary friend? Is it a nice person? Great, you can invite them in. If they're like, I don't think they're really nice, then you tell them you are in charge and you can tell them, get the hell out.
Right.
You're not allowed in my house, go.
Yeah.
And they get it. Their kids are so fast at learning this stuff. It's amazing. They're like, oh, I'm in charge? Great.
Yeah.
You're allowed, not in, out, just set the boundaries. I don't want to have these kind of nightmares anymore, then I'm not going to. As soon as they know that they get to choose, it's so good. And I was the same way. I had to go home from so many slumber parties and birthday parties. So that's all my questions I wanted to get you to share with people. Is there anything else you thought of that you might want to put out there?
No, I think that's it. Yeah, I'm excited to Master Magic #2 for me, so I'm excited.
Yay, I'm so excited. It's going to be really fun to go through it again with you.
Yeah, it's going to be a great time. I can't wait. And for everyone else who joins, it's going to be so magical. So
Yep, for lining up. It's going to be really fun. We got a good group coming.
Yes.